Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to our East Coast based city here in City Skylines 2. As always, I'm your host and creator, Legio, and if you end up liking what you see on your screen, I don't have to tell you what to do. You've probably been on YouTube for more than 5 minutes, and you've been told what to do multiple times. So there is that, but do that thing if you like what you see on this thing. Alright, let's back out a little bit, talk about what we've done, talk about what we will do, and then just go do it. So we've been working on this neighborhood for 2 episodes, and today will be the 3rd installment and the final installment on this neighborhood because I'm taking my time with it, and honestly it's turning out great. So working from right to left, in the first installment we built this neighborhood right here with a bunch of row housing and some apartment buildings framing it in, and we also built this main drag right here. I think that's pretty spiffy, to say myself, like that. Then we worked out this little area in here, more housing, but a few schools here and there. One of my favorite spots is this right here, this German style school. I think that looks good, especially with our Eastern European building there that we've termed a museum, at least I have. So yeah, those are the 2 parts that we've gotten built, the 2 phases of this. Now we're moving on to phase 3 over here. And it's going to be pretty straightforward. We are going to basically fill in the rest of the grid. But instead of it just being pure housing, I will get some services, parks, a school or 2, and maybe even a church in. We'll see. And then I promise we'll be done with residential for a little while. I know it's been a lot, but it's been needed. I've discussed that in the past. So anyways, let's just go ahead and dive right into it, and hopefully you guys enjoy the build. And I'll probably be talking to you in a few seconds with the screen moving really fast. Alrighty, so to kick things off, I revisit the German school block we placed down in the last episode. And this time I thought I'd expand it using the high school variant. And this fills out the block very nicely. It also helps chip away at that lingering education demand that we've been dealing with. I also chose to rework the surfaces of the building to better fit the layout of the block. For the pathway texture, I went with the Japanese-inspired stone underneath the tile tab in the surfaces menu, and Japanese and German themes together. There's a World War II joke begging to be made, but I'm going to keep it neutral, much like Switzerland did. I'm funny, damn it, laugh at my jokes. But anyways, I digress. The color of the stone pairs really well with the school's color palette. It complements the brick of the building and those terracotta shingles, especially when you zoom out, everything seems to work pretty well together. And the subtle moss accents that are poking through are a very nice detail. Everything comes together very nicely. It also plays nicely with that neo-Gothic vibe of the school, and it feels right at home here. Over in these grassy areas you see me playing around with, I couldn't decide on what shade I wanted at first, so I tested a few out. I eventually landed on going with a lighter, brighter green because it had a bit more of a pop and it helps brighten up the space overall and makes it stand out. Quite simply, I love how the school turned out, and I hope you guys agree as well. The school could probably use a name, so if you have a suggestion, please leave one down below. I'd greatly appreciate any comments on this because I'm not creative when it comes to naming these things. And now crossing the street from City Hall, I placed down the city's first post office. And I used the Eastern European post office for this. It's a rather standard looking building, there's nothing outstanding to it. And that's not to be mean to the creator of it, that's actually what I wanted for this part of the build. This is one of those buildings that just gets the job done, and that's what you want for government work. And I spent some time detailing in and around the building. I stained the lot in the back, add a parking lot, and then stain it as well. I had a few decals here and there, a few trees for ambiance, and did my best to make this building appear used and run down. One issue I have had with City Skylines, though minor, it's always that the buildings look pristine in the game. And that is fine for the most part, but highly used government buildings like this would for sure be run down. And don't worry, I will be placing mailboxes throughout the community in the ending live play, so don't scold me about that just yet. But continuing on, I plopped down yet another school because our need is that high. And this one's a little bit more on the nose, but I use the urban elementary school. It just makes too much sense not to place down the urban school in an urban environment. I placed the parking on the backside of the building and reworked the textures just to change things up a little bit. I also insert a makeshift pathway into that parking lot. That's purely aesthetic, nothing is working, but it does look cool and I like it regardless. A little bit of detail to finish things off and we will have ourselves a nice little school for the community. With the school finished, I next move on to a city recycling lot to service the community here. This will help with our garbage needs. Not that we really need much help, but in my head canon, this is where the community would come together and sort the recyclables and stuff like that. I've seen that happen at least on TV, so hopefully it's real and not just something that's TV magic. But I'd also imagine the school is somehow affiliated with this type of project of sorts, giving kids the chance to learn about recycling and things of that nature. Really, it's just a convenient excuse to implement child labor here. I then place down the blood bank on the other side, and this will give our hospitals a little boost in efficiency while also filling in that space with something other than row houses and apartment buildings that have been slapping down. It's a nice little building doing the Lord's work, and it required minimal detailing, so that was also a big win in my book. Staying on brand with the education need for the city, I built out an urban high school here in this oddly shaped lot next to the highway. Thought this was a really good space for the high school and everything fit. I was also able to get all the essentials that you need for the high school, such as a very large parking lot and an American football field. I spent quite a bit of time detailing here and adding in odds and ends, such as a radio tower to get some telecommunications in. And this is where I'm going to kill a whole bunch of airtime because I'm going to spend some time detailing, and while you guys watch, I'm going to go get a cup of coffee.
Anything you want to get that cake, to get that cake. You would say anything to get that cake. I got that.
Alrighty, now that I'm caffeinated, I think I can possibly say a few more words here. So you just saw me place down the park maintenance building, and we are definitely going to need that with the sheer number of park assets I'm about to drop in. I'm going to be dropping basketball courts, tennis courts, and a whole bunch of other park-related buildings, So we are definitely going to need this asset here to maintain all that. I also checked, our park maintenance score was getting pretty low, almost to 0 on some spots, so I had to address that. Because poorly run parks in this game is a no-go. If the parks aren't maintained in the game, you have to deal with unhappy citizens, low attractiveness, and decreased land value, which are all pretty bad and, hurt your city. But the worst part is the visuals of the park become unpleasant, and I will not tolerate things looking unpleasant in this city. So one thing I've also always noticed is that in real life, cities tend to hide these kind of service buildings away. They tuck them away in a spot that the public usually is not going to see them. Typically hidden under or near overpasses or something like that, just like I did there. And also having it close to that high school kind of sells the idea that that land was once a big chunk of government land that they later carved up for multiple public projects. While I was detailing it, I threw in some small props such as traffic barriers, some of the barrels that you'll see, and then I hit it with some heavy decal and surface work to really sell the look of a public works facility. I then surrounded it all in some shrubbery and I called it good. My guess is I'm going to need quite a few more of these buildings as the build progresses, so it's going to be a fun little game of figuring out where I'm going to hide all these away at. But from there, I jump back into filling out the remaining blocks with a mix of residential and non-residential zoning, trying to be as creative as I can. I just let my imagination run wild on this. Also, Google Earth came in quite handy. I would just randomly find a spot in New York or Boston or something like that, and just kind of take a random idea off the screen. Everything for this project is still hand placed, as you can see, which yes, does take forever, but the end result is always worth it in my opinion. It's also more fun for me this way. I don't like relying on the zoning tool because it generates random buildings and I don't like that. I want to have full and complete control because I am the god of this map. I'm also going to scatter some industrial and commercial buildings throughout this neighborhood to help provide jobs because I checked and our unemployment rate is not great. It's really not great. Think Great Depression levels of not great. But luckily, that's a pretty easy fix in this game, and I'm going to deal with that later. You fix it by making jobs available, mostly industry, when you don't have education up to the university level or college level, which we don't have in the city. So I am going to find a way to sneak in some industrial sectors here and there to provide some load-level jobs. We need some blue-collar workers building things and shipping things. But for now, I am going to be turning more or less a blind eye and focusing on pumping up that population number because that's what I really care about right now. And this part of the neighborhood will be marking a transition zone. I'm going to be moving away from that dense urban apartment blocks I've been doing with some tight row housing into more open, single level homes with some more room to breathe. You'll see that as the build progresses. Not so much on your screen right now. I'm just giving you a heads up what's to come. But once we do cross that highway, things will really start to sprawl out into proper suburbia. But for now, it's a callback to what I've been doing in the previous episodes and me speed building blocks until we get to another highlight for me to talk about. So go ahead and enjoy that. And we are back. And I just dropped in the town chapel right here in the center of everything, which is historically accurate. That's where these kind of things usually went. When towns were just getting started out, the church wasn't just a place to pray, it was the anchor of the community. Back in early day America, churches were basically the town hall, community center, and the social forum all rolled into one spot. So it just makes sense to give it a prime location. This church asset, however, is fairly new, but we're just going to say it got rebuilt due to a fire or something like that. It's literally all I had to work with. Plus, in-game, it adds us a nice little bump to outdoor recreation and community well-being, which is always a win. And now I have seen a little bit of back and forth on the City Skylines subreddit about them possibly putting religion into the game. For the record, I'm not particularly religious, but let's be real, religion shaped cities throughout history. You really can't talk urban planning history without mentioning how cities literally would grow up around places of worship. Your grid plans, your radial layouts, more often than not, they were centered around a big old building dedicated to the divine. So yeah, I'm all for having these kinds of assets in the game. I don't think we really need a full-blown religious mechanic per se. Like, no need to simulate holy wars or anything. But as a happiness and culture boost, that totally makes sense. I would like to see more variety in the game, however. I don't think there's any mosques, synagogues, manders, or gurdwaras, you name it. We could probably just use a little bit more diversity. And I think that's to come. I don't see the community letting it go too long when the workshop opens up to us, so I see those coming into the game. And it would help give our city some real cultural texture. I think it'd be a really nice addition. I'm also guessing that Paradox, if they see this, they might get the idea to build a DC around it and call it Religions of the World or something like that just to make some money, while also stirring up some pretty good controversy. We'll see what happens. But, you know, religion is not everyone's thing, and that's fine. It's not my thing. But there's one thing that religion absolutely crushes, and that's its architecture, because it gives us some of those beautiful buildings on Earth, all because they want to impress the heavens. Anyways, that's my rant, and I'm going to move on from it and leave it there. So now I dropped in one of the parks that I foreshadowed earlier in the episode. And this turns out to be a neat little urban park that I built using some tennis courts, basketball courts, and adding a unique little playground right here, and then connecting them all up with a footpath. To make the basketball courts look a little better and more realistic, I used Soli's basketball decals to cover up those bright colors. Those courts would stick out like a sore thumb, and most outdoor basketball courts, here in America at least, typically use concrete. They don't stand out, but they are there for the public, and they're long lasting. So that easy and subtle change helps create the urban vibe I've been striving for in these last couple of builds. I then go ahead and spam the area with the tree brush mod, this time remembering to disable the Anarchy. And having this park across the street from the school we built earlier, I think is a really nice touch. It gives the kids a place to go after school that would theoretically be closely monitored by the community, so it should be a very safe space for them, with plenty of activities and a lot of room for them to get up to no good. I then placed down what's going to be the last little bit of housing in this build, and this should be the last little bit of housing for quite a while. I admittedly am a little fatigued from building so much residential, and I don't know about you, I'm ready to move on to something bigger and better, but this did need done, and I'm just happy to be done with it now. And then to finish out the fast play, I will be building one last park space, and I'm really happy with the way this park space turned out. I think you guys are going to enjoy this. The park's focus was for it to be nice and open and give lots of space for people to play and walk around in. I went with combining the multi-purpose park with a couple of the passage parks, and they went together really, really well, and it gave us a great space. I think this is a space that if you plop it in a real city, people would find a lot of usage for. Yeah, they just went together really well, and it turns out great. I also end up adding a open field here for whatever activity your little heart desires or whatever you can think to do in that space. And then I add a nice small little water pool. Water pool, that's what a pool is, it's water. Either way, I had a nice little pool for people to splash around in and or feed the passing ducks through the area. I love how this part turned out. I think it turned out great, and I thought it was a great usage of our assets here. It's going to add a lot of value to this area, and as long as it's maintained, I think it's going to be a vital asset for this neighborhood going forward. Either way, that's enough of my talking, and that's pretty much all the fast play we have for this episode. So I will see you guys in the live play in just a little bit. Alrighty guys, we are back live in game and spring has definitely sprung in our city. Everything is bright and vibrant and looking awesome, and I am here for it. I am loving the look of things right now. So let's go ahead and do our typical recap. Then we'll place those mailboxes down that I promised you during the fast play, and then we'll do some cinematics, and that'll be the episode. There will be nothing after the cinematics. So let's go ahead and zoom out real quick and we'll start highlighting some things. The first thing I want to highlight is the row housing and apartment buildings are finally done and built. I will be building no more of these in the coming episodes, at least for a while. There will be more to come, but I'm done building these for a while. I'm very tired of doing it, and I appreciate your guys' patience of dealing with it for so long, but I think it was worth it. I think they look really good. But let's highlight some of the more unique aspects of this episode. And my favorite of this episode turned out to be this high school lot we built in this pretty uniquely shaped lot right here along the highway. And I think the best way to talk about it is going to be going from right to left, actually. So we squeezed in the urban high school right here, and it's looking pretty spiffy. It's educating kids, and it's looking really good. I put a parking lot on each side of it. The one over here is like a faculty lot. I made that using some surfaces and dome parking with a few checkered pattern surfaces to go in there as well to just detail things a little bit, and then surrounded it with a bunch of trees and bushes. On the back side of the building, we do have a little circle drive for you to drop your kids off if you see fit. Just throw them right out of the car right next to the highway. That works for me. Over here, I guess this would be like student parking for those who can drive. It's a pretty good looking lot, honestly, especially once I roughed it up with some decals and stuff. Right next door to that is the football field for the high school, because every American high school needs a football team. It's just kind of a law of the land. You had to have it. I don't make the rules. I just copy the rules. Right next door to that, we have our park maintenance building, and that looks pretty good here in this area. Needed that down because our park system was failing pretty badly. And then I got a little cheeky and I snuck in this radio mast right here to get some internet to the citizens. It's not doing all the work it needs to do, but it's enough right now. At least the high school has internet, so that's cool. But I thought it was pretty cool sneaking it here with this interchange we built in episodes past. I think it looks good among the overpasses there. I like that look. That's a pretty good visual. Moving on, the other thing I wanted to show was the town chapel. Now, I gave this a little bit of hate during the fast play, but it is growing on me. It looks a little better than I gave it credit for, so my apologies. That does look good, especially here in the middle of this neighborhood. I think it works. I think it is definitely working out. Then we have our urban elementary school down here. That looks really nice. That shade of brick is just so chic. It's so in right now. That's looking really nice. And then right across the street is our urban park that we built by hand, using a few basketball courts, tennis courts, and a playground. And then I just kind of stylized everything myself, and I think that turned out great. And then the last park I built was this massive park here. This is actually 3 parks combined into one, and that looks awesome. Yeah, it looks really good. And I threw in a little water feature as well. Not much detailing there, but I think it didn't need much detailing. And then we put in a post office right here, and not much to say about it. Pretty straightforward building, like I said during the fast play. But that does segue pretty well into what I promised I would put down in the live play, and that is going to be some mailboxes. So let me get zoomed all the way out here so we have a nice good eagle eye view, and we're going to go into our communications and we're going to get our mailboxes. And now I put a little bit of thought into how this is going to go. So we're going to work left to right, and I think I'm going to alternate blocks, and that's going to make more sense once I get started. So I think we're going to start by putting a mailbox right here in front of the high school, and then we're going to put one on the alternate block like that, and we're just going to work our way down kind of like that throughout this neighborhood. And then I thought a mailbox in front of City Hall would be good. I think a mailbox right here in the middle of this apartment complex would be good. Then we come up into this neighborhood. I think we can probably have a mailbox here, on here, and that should be good for that road. And then here on, what is this, Lafayette Street, I think we can have one like right here, have one across the street, and then I don't want them too close together. I think one like right here is good. Now we come into the Name Me Please neighborhood. I still haven't received a name for that. That's on you guys. If I don't get a name soon, I'll just start naming things myself. I think a mailbox here by these apartment complexes is good, and then we'll follow the same pattern we did over here. So I think one here. And then we'll put one or two over here in the industrial sector. I think one on the corner is good. I think one on the corner is good as well. All right, so now they have mail running through the city, and that'll make them happy, which in turn makes everybody in the city better for it, and a house is on fire. Is that because I put mailboxes down? Did the U.S. Postal Service cause this fire? What a shame. Oh well, hopefully our fire services will take care of it. Anyways, guys, that is pretty much the episode. I hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please do the typical YouTube stuff down below. I'd greatly appreciate it, as would my algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next episode. Have a good day.